All right, so we had Bible study tonight, and we were reading out of First John chapter 2, I believe it was verses 14 through 29. That was the premise of what we were reading today and what our study was. And one of the questions that came up about what is the importance of having the Holy Spirit in our lives and having the Spirit of God that guides and leads us in a relationship with God. And I had we were discussing, everybody else kind of talked about their points of it, and it was interesting stuff to hear from other people's perspectives of it. And I had kind of my take and my what I was thinking about when I was reading, when I was hearing the question, and I was thinking it kind of related to like a relationship with somebody, our relationship with God, our relationship with that is the pinnacle of our relationship is to the Holy Spirit. It is a life of faith, and it's a life of how we, how you communicate with God, how you talk with Him, and how you listens, and how you stuff like that. And we're kind of talking about the whole concept of, what is the importance of having the Holy Spirit in our lives when it comes to faith and in our relationship with God. It's, the Holy Spirit is what kind of keeps us in tune, with our relationship with God. Through that comes through reading the Word, praying. How do you begin to know somebody? How do you begin to know the characteristics? How do you begin to understand who they are? Without, how do you know somebody if you don't really get to spend time with them, spend time in how they talk, how they act, what they like, what they don't like, and stuff like that. And I was thinking of understanding of, like, the relationship with, we have with our relationship with my relationship with God, and our relationship as believers. Our relationship with God should be, if you're not in tune with what God is saying, if you're not in tune with what He's doing, then there's always going to be that separation of, like, okay, I don't understand what you're doing, why are you doing this, it doesn't make sense. But that comes there, through reading the Word, talking, through prayer, through the Holy Spirit, through the ushering, and then the community and the works of the Holy Spirit in our life. And it makes some very interesting kind of like parallels. Like I said, relationship with somebody, you talk to them, it's like, their characters, how they talk, they act. If somebody does something for yourself, for you, you can do something for talk a certain way, do something like that, but you have meant no offense to it, no like that. But somebody from the outside would see you and hear you say something, they'd be like, oh, this guy's rude, he's a jerk, or he's this and that, whatever. But to those around you, it's like, you're just being who you are. But that means that there's a separation of a relationship between you and that person. But when it comes to our relationship with God, that's the Holy Spirit is there, and that we also get that through the Word and through prayer. So I just wanted to just kind of share that with you. It was kind of interesting to hear that perspective of, like, what keeps our relationship with God, continues to keep it going, what keeps us in line with Him, and it's through reading the Word, reading the Bible, through prayer, and then being in His presence, and just talking with Him and understanding Him and listening to Him, through worship music, however you want to do that. But the importance of the Holy Spirit, is to continue to speak to us and guide us in our lives. And I just thought I'd share that with you guys. And yeah, all right, appreciate you guys watching. Take care. Love you guys. God bless.